Good evening. We'll call to order the City Council meeting for the City of Saratoga Springs. Today is Tuesday, April 14th, 2026. It is 6 p.m. Present, we have Councilmember Wadman, Barton, Davenport, Taylor, Wilson. So we have a quorum. We will go ahead to our prayer, and I've asked Councilman Wadman to offer that for us.
Our Father in heaven, we are grateful for the opportunity we have to be here as Americans, as citizens of Saratoga, and as residents of the great state of Utah. We are truly grateful for this opportunity we have to exercise our freedoms and work as a city representing those that are in the city of Saratoga. We thank you for the staff, for those that make this a beautiful place to live and keep our parks and our recreation areas open, and those that protect us, both in fire and police. And we thank thee for everything else that given us our Father in heaven and the bounty that we have to call this home. We ask you to please bless that as we make decisions and vote on the interests of the city, that we will do so with cordial and open minds and open hearts to those messages that are being said. And we say these in the name of Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Councilman Wadman, and we will do our pledge by Councilmember Taylor.
Please follow me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We will move to public comment or public input. Time has been set aside for the public to express ideas, concerns, and comments for subject matter not listed as public hearings on the agenda. Time for the public input is limited to no more than 15 minutes total. Please limit individual comments to 3 minutes. Time may not be given to another commenter. Please be respectful in your comments. Please avoid repetitive comments. If you're here for a public hearing, please hold your comment until that item. Is anybody here for public input? Please come to the microphone and give your name and address for the record. And you have 3 minutes, and I'll hold you to it.
2:59 for you.
Yeah, understandably so. My name's Garrett Cousins. I currently live at 1023 West Coral Trine Way, located in Saratoga Springs, Utah. I'm part of the Wildflower Master Development up there on the north end of Saratoga Springs. Point is, though, basically for the past 3 years, across the way from Chianti, there's been a bunch of construction trash there. And I'm not talking about like bags of trash, but I'm talking about like basically like these giant UDOT road signs and like these giant concrete pipes that have just been sitting there for the past 3 years. Unfortunately, sometimes it does obstruct the sidewalk, which I've had to remove sometimes, but just because of the amount of traffic that's been increasing, especially foot traffic from the school, it's kind of becoming a little prohibitive, so to speak. But the point is, it's like, it's also kind of becoming a dumping ground of sorts for people just to drop off their washing and dryer machines and stuff like that. I actually reached out to Rob Taylor when you guys had your little excursion over in Washington, D.C., and I asked if this is something we can take care of. Luckily, the washer dryer was removed within the day after he made a call, but I was just curious to know if the city can take more proactive approach just to ID whether if that's like UDOTs, if that's like Saratoga Springs trash, or even if it's a landowner. Unfortunately, it is DAI, and I know they've been kind of difficult to work with in the past. But the point is like if there's some pressure in which the city can do to just get that removed, that would be great for not only the residents there, but just for the families that use those sidewalks all the time.
Sure. Jeremy, can you coordinate on location and we can figure out, Mark, if that's code enforcement or who needs to work on that for us? Okay, if you could just.
Yes, it's actually, so it's on the west side of Chianti. Yeah, correct.
West of the sidewalk, so is it in the strip between the sidewalk and the street, or is it west of the sidewalk?
It's west of the sidewalk, in between the fence and the sidewalk for that area.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like basically right here. Okay. Along this whole stretch. Okay.
Is it south of Coral Charm?
It is north. Oh, sorry. It's north of Coral Charm Way. Yeah. Yeah.
Just north of that new fenced area.
Yeah, basically. But that new fenced area has been going up and down, I kid you not, probably 5 times since I've lived there. I have no idea what they're doing, but point is if the city can put some pressure on whatever entity is responsible for it, that'd be great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else here for public comment, public input? Okay, if not, we will close public input. We will go to reports. Council.
Boring 2 weeks.
It's been spring break. Okay, I don't have any administration.
I think we're good. We do have need for closed session this evening,
Okay.
so a brief one. Thank you.
Okay. There were department reports for library rec, public relations, and community outreach in your packet. Are there any questions on those reports? Nope. Okay. I was going to call an audible and change our agenda a little bit to bring the work session to the front, but I don't see Sam here yet, so I will wait on that. So we will go to consent items. Are there any questions, or do I have a motion on consent?
One quick question. Earlier discussed that I got an email from a resident asking that we potentially look into doing possibly like a mail communication for the fire zone, so people know. There's a lot of new residents. I don't think we've done one in 4 or 5 years, but so that they know, if the new residents know, other than just social media and the newsletter, that their street. So I would, if it's possible, love to have a second to direct staff to look into doing a mailer that we can track
Sorry about what? Restate that.
about the fire zone, so that people know whether or not they can do fireworks on their street, with a link to the map so they can look for the whole city.
I love that idea.
Is there a estimated cost to send a mailer to the whole city?
Well, it'd probably not be for the whole city, but it could be.
you wanna do
My
just
guess,
restricted
my
streets?
guess is 5,000 to 10,000, depending on how cheap we can do it.
You want to do just restricted streets?
Probably just restricted streets.
Okay,
We can look into
Let's-
cost-saving measures.
Restricted streets would cut that cost down.
Yeah, we can look into
dramatically.
cost-saving measures.
Let's do
but
a ma-
at least the restricted
I think,
seats.
two council members have given staff direction. Let's do a motion on the consent items, if we can.
I move that we approve the
Is that,
consent
oh, sorry, I
items.
didn't know if that's where we were at. Sorry, Mayor.
Okay, we have a first on consent.
Second. Sorry.
I'm gonna
I'll
give
just
it
go
to,
with
I'm gonna
go
give
with
it to Audrey,
Okay.
because you already said something on this. Okay, we have a first from Councilmember Davenport, a second from Barton. All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
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 Thank you, that passes. That's unanimous, and we will go to our public hearing. We'll move to public hearing 1, updates to the City of Saratoga Springs Water Conservation Plan, ordinance 26-14, dated today. I'm assuming that's Jeremy?
Yes. Let me do a presentation and then we can do the
Great.
thing. So, per state law, we have to update our water conservation plan.
Jared, could you talk in your microphone a little more?
There we go. Per state law, we have a water conservation plan. It has to be updated once every 5 years. So 2021 was the last update. Today, 2026 is obviously the time for the renewal. Going through it, I had a chance to email a little bit with Emma, and we talked about some of the things in there, which was a good chance for me to kind of refresh my memory. So we're ahead of the curve. So if you look at the chapter 3, which talks about our goals for this next 5-year period, it really is to sustain. We've made so much progress in those last 2 5-year periods that really, at this point, the challenge is just to keep the gains we've had. So on the drinking water side, we're a very new city, which means our infrastructure is fairly water efficient. Almost all homes have newer water efficient fixtures. And so, yeah, so as far as, trying to get people to update their fixtures is not really a strategy for a city like ours that's new. It's really keeping people from overusing their culinary on their yard or not doing it, except in small amounts of like planter boxes and stuff. And then secondary water, again, is to sustain. We've already come down 30-40% from some of the worst years that we saw prior to metering. And so again, the goals in this is to sustain the progress we've made. There are some things out there, so we'll continue to do leak identification with our advanced metering system that we have. We continue to encourage residents to sign up for those notifications, and every month we send out leak notices to residents when we are aware they may have a leak
Actually, I'm going to update that. I talked to Marquette and the utility billing team earlier this week, or late last week, and we daily get the leak reports, and on a daily basis, they'll be reaching out to people as they appear new on that and letting them know that they have a leak. So we are very actively engaged in using the data to help, encourage people. We'll reach out to them, whether we have their phone numbers, texts, or emails, and we'll try and let them know that, hey, we're reporting a leak, we're seeing that you've got a leak, please take a look at that. So again, very aggressive on trying to help people understand that. Whether they fix it or not, it's kind of on them, but we are definitely trying to push that information out as soon as it becomes available to us that there could be a problem for people.
Thanks, Mark, for clarifying that. And then just one of the, again, we're always on the lookout for what we call non-revenue or illicit water, whether that's someone taking water from a hydrant, like a contractor, without the proper, checking out the proper meters from us, or other potentially illicit connections. We keep a lookout on that. And there are potentially a very small number of secondary connections that are still unmetered. It's kind of impossible to know what you don't know. So in the very older parts of the city, it is very possible that underground somewhere someone has connected. We think if there are any, it's a very, very small number, but again, it's impossible to know. So if we happen to discover those, again, the strategy in the report says, do your best. If you can find them, then we'll continue to look for those. And then another thing, longer term is tiered, non-residential tiered rates. So tiered rates for non-residential is something that we may want to consider in the future, if at the right time. So other than that, we've submitted our plan to the state for their review and approval. They basically said, you guys are, our poster child for cities as far as water conservation. Keep up the good work. So with that, per the state law, we hold a public hearing. Any comments, any things, the minutes go back into that water conservation plan, and then we pursue that plan, and you'll see me again in 5 years.
All right, thank you for that presentation, Public Works Director Lappin. This is a public hearing, so we will open the public hearing. I'll open the public hearing for the City of Saratoga Springs Water Conservation Plan, Ordinance 26-14. Please be respectful in your comments. Please limit comments to 3 minutes. Time may not be given to another commenter. Please avoid repetitive comments. Is anybody here for the public hearing item? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. And I'll turn it over to the council for any questions.
Just quick, I sent like 10 questions over to Jeremy this morning and he gave me very thorough responses. I just want to say I'm really excited that we are now eligible, residents are now eligible to participate in Utah Water Savers Program. So it sounds like he's been working for several years to get that in place, and so that is really exciting. Well, administration, so thank you very much. I'm very excited. I know I have
Yes.
other neighbors and residents who will be really excited to use this incentive to change their lawns.
Is this the flip the strip?
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say, do we need to clarify a little bit about?
Yeah, so it's
if you'll clarify
a
that for us.
partial,
Yeah.
so they're eligible for half of it, and that Central Utah understands what we've been doing from conservation. They agree with us, and so they're giving their portion of it. There are some requirements the state has made that frankly would be a bit of a restrictive thing. As a city, we try and let residents get their yards in at the lowest possible cost and the easiest possible way. We want them to be water wise, but for example, we do not inspect everyone's landscape plans prior to them putting them in. We do not have restrictions that say X number of shrubs or trees or whatever. We just say, make sure that there's no, weeds over X feet high, and get something in that, kind of meets the minimum requirement for yard. And to some extent, a rake, a garden hose, and a bag of seed can get most people into that minimum compliance. And so we're somewhat at conflict, not because we don't want people to conserve water, but because we're also trying to be mindful of the cost of home entry. And so we're trying to be less restrictive in some regards. Some of the other restrictions are, for example, a prohibition of grass in side yards. That's something that we look at and say, maybe it's okay if it's less than 10 feet wide, to not have those or that grass on the side of a house, but we don't want to necessarily put a ban on it. The other thing that's a little bit tricky is we also don't want to commit and say that we're enforcing it at the state's level of enforcement, and not be enforcing it. And so, again, for us to take on that higher level of reviewing everyone's landscaping plans and then going in and making sure that they built landscape plans to the approved plans, that's something that's probably more restrictive for our community than we may want to get into. But that would be one of the major hurdles that we would need to cross at some point to be eligible for all of the state funding. And at some point, we may need to get there because of state requirements, but at this point, we're not at that level of micromanagement of our residents and how they're meeting our landscaping requirements.
So right now, they meet it through the Central Utah Water Conservation District.
Correct.
Okay.
And so it's half of the incentive that others are doing if they've got the state's portion of that contribution as well.
Great.
And they're also eligible for the smart controller rebates. So if you've gone into Lowe's or Home Depot, they can still get a rebate on those smart controllers that adjust the watering, automatically turn off for rain.
Nice.
Any other count questions? I will entertain a motion on the public hearing.
I move that we approve the updates to the City of Saratoga Springs Water Conservation Plan, ordinance 2614, dated today.
I second the motion.
We have a first from Councilmember Barton and a second from Wilson. I will take a roll call vote. Taylor?
Yes.
Wilson?
Yes.
Wadman?
Yes.
Barton?
Yes.
Davenport?
Yes.
That vote is unanimous. Now we are going to change our agenda a little bit. I'm going to move our work session above our business items because I don't think we need a motion to change the agenda. I'm going to invite Sam Brager, sorry, Sam. I've known you for 5 years, 6 years, to the podium. If he needs any help plugging in, or getting set up, that'd be great. Oh, he's, looks like we're ready to go.
Yeah. Look at that, it's already prepared on it.
Sam, if you want to introduce yourself to our whole council here, that'd be great.
Yes, sir. Before I do so, though, I got to compliment you on your view of Utah Lake. This is my first time in the new building, and I'm quite pleased to see how amazing the view is here.
There's probably no other city hall you'll see will get this, so you're welcome.
That is true. I appreciate
As a matter of
that.
fact,
I
if you'd
appreciate
moved-
that for
if
sure.
you'd move to your left a little bit, so
Sure, I don't want to affect your view. Should I stand over like this, maybe a little?
If you look over your right shoulder, Sam, you'll see our new marina being put in.
Yes, and I've been talking with Jeremy and Mark about it. We're really excited to have that coming
Great.
in. It's a great feature on the lake. So, as the mayor mentioned, and I apologize, I've known a few of these members. Sometimes I might go by first name by accident, but feel free to correct me if needed. My name's Sam Brager. I'm the deputy director of the Utah Lake Authority. I've worked on Utah Lake almost a decade now between the Utah Lake Commission and the Utah Lake Authority. But tonight wanted to just bring an idea before the city council at the suggestion of Councilmember Barton to get some initial thoughts and feedback from you all on a master plan that we're pursuing at Utah Lake. So the slides I have give you some background on the project as a whole. Inlet Park at Utah Lake is one element of this project that we're doing that we'll hit on specifically today. So I don't know why I just looked. I'm gonna ignore my laptop because I don't have that going along with the slides. So basically what happened is we got a grant from the state to do some planning at Utah Lake. There's 34, soon to be 35, public access points at Utah Lake. Of those, very, very few, in fact, if I remember correctly, Saratoga, American Fork, and the state park has an out-of-date one. So I think 3, you could say 4 now with the new incoming marina, actually have a master plan to follow in managing those access points. And these range across marinas, parks, beaches, trailheads, sportsman access points, but they don't have a vision, a plan to follow. So that was something we identified in our agency as a need that needed to be filled. The 11 that are listed on the screen are the 11 we're currently pursuing, and then we'll pursue additional access points in the future. Inlet Park is one of those. These master plans are intended to provide long-range vision, outline development, enhancement of the access points themselves. They're trying to provide guidance for our agency, the actual landowner and or managing entity, because sometimes the managing organization is not the landowner. It kind of varies from access point to access point, with having a consistent vision so that we're not just pursuing the next shiny thing or also sitting on our heels and not pursuing improvements at the lake. So those are meant to be some of the benefits from them. This is a project timeline overall for all 11 together. So basically working through this entire calendar year through January of next year to have these ready for quote unquote adoption or approval, depending on the access point. This is a base map that we had our contractor Landmark Design pull together. It's more or less mirroring the land ownership boundary around Inlet Park. However, you'll note that on the, I guess this won't show the laser for you guys, on the northern boundary, it's not encapsulating the entirety of Inlet Park itself, the park. It's encapsulating what we envision to be the portion of the park that has the greater connection to the lake. So it goes up to the parking area on the south side of the access point there. That said, the initial focuses that we had thought about, our contractor and myself, and from conversations with a few other lake managers, some primary focuses of what we'd like to maybe consider and see in a master plan for this area would be primarily a non-motorized portage ramp. This is a main issue that's been raised several times, that there's a portage at Inlet Park into the Jordan River, but there is no mirroring portage into Utah Lake for people who are trying to get from one water body to the other while paddling. Also of interest, angling access structures, trail connection, vegetation management, and lake access is kind of a catch-all there at the end. As a secondary focus, there's things that could also be included around the hot springs that are on the land there, any city facilities that are intended or planned, parking potential improvements, or less lake-related items. This was meant to be, we're happy to consider additional items.
Hey, Sam.
Yeah.
We're in a work session. Can I ask questions?
You
as we
can.
go?
I did want to get to this last one here, which is, those are just my initial thoughts. I had questions for you and want to hear questions from you all on what the scope of this should be and can be, understanding that this is very early on. We just started the process, and we wanted, Councilmember Barton and I, she serves on our board currently, discussed bringing in the city council member, or excuse me, the city council very early on to hear initial thoughts, concerns, ideas, instead of waiting until we had some kind of concept and it's not going to work for XYZ reason. So I'd
Can we
be
go
happy
back
to
a
take any of
slide?
your questions to start.
Go back a slide.
Yeah.
Non-motorized portage ramp into the lake.
Yeah.
Do we not, I thought we had this.
We have portages, or we have non-motorized ramps into the Jordan River portion, but it's north of the dam structure. We don't have necessarily a portage, like a paved portage structure from the parking lot into the channel that goes out to the lake.
So, I'm probably wrong. I thought we were doing something like that at, is it Heron Hills Park?
Oh, yeah, we do have it along the lake. We have it at Heron Hills Park. It's included there. We have it at the South Marina.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, but we do not have one just immediately adjacent to us out here at this lake. If you go back one more slide.
Yeah.
I think the question is would we want to work with them to like take from the sidewalk there and just cut it straight over to the lake, onto the lake portion of the channel, and put some sort of a lake entry point, kind of like we've done on other locations, which is kind of a paved trail down. So seems that would be consistent with what we've done in other places and consistent with what we've done.
So Sam, what you're talking about is doing a master plan for this area, which would be a recommending document, guidance document. It doesn't, because you're master planning both city property and state property?
Yeah, so you hit on a unique point at Utah Lake, and part of the role that the Lake Authority fills is trying to coordinate between those, but we often then end up filling a role that is more recommending instead of binding. My comment to the city council would be that this master plan could be as binding or non-binding as you'd like. We have areas that we think are priorities we'd like to see included in such a plan, but I had a discussion with Mark about some of the past discussions around this site of land for the city. If you would like us to only focus on just the portage, for instance, that's something we're willing to consider. If you want us to just focus on amenities on the lake shore portion of the boundary of the parcel, we're willing to consider that. We don't want to take on more than the city would like. This master plan of the 11 is somewhat unique in that it's crossing a city-managed parcel and state. The rest of them are all exclusively one managing organization, which is primarily the state. The 7 or 6 of them are state, 3 are county. Excuse me.
Yeah, my only concern, obviously I wouldn't want this to be any kind of a binding document. I don't want board members who live in, other parts of the county voting on a binding document for Saratoga Springs. There was a point in time, and this is history, and that is not saying we have to move forward, that a good portion of this land was at one point being looked at for hopefully beyond my time as being a rec center for the city.
Yes.
Again, hopefully not during my tenure, the next 3.5 years up here. I'm just wondering how we,
Yeah. So
if that's still a thought by the current council or not, or if we want to try and plan around that but still accomplish what you're trying to accomplish at the same time.
Sure. That's a great point to raise. And I think that hits on what this map really was just pulled together by the contractor on, hey, this is a city park. What would you select for what we need to focus on for actual lake access and improvement and such? And so he went wider on my guidance with the intention that we could narrow it. Discussing the various items that I mentioned as far as focuses that could be, the main item is trying to provide a official lake access, meaning
Yep.
you can walk down the trail and walk across the land and get to the lake, but there's nowhere guiding people. So
100%.
part of the hope of that portage is addressing the land right by the dam is actually owned by Salt Lake City. And they recently, I don't know how they weren't aware for the last decade I've been working here, but recently realized people were accessing that and they fenced it off because they don't want public access on that land.
Okay.
So people are now calling and complaining. I've actually had a call with the Division of Law Enforcement because my name got dropped to somebody who might know the answer, to which I shared with them of Salt Lake City is now saying nobody can access there. So trying to provide a lake access would be the minimum hope that we would like to see in a master plan. And by that, I mean a portage, some kind of trail coming from the parking lot to move a portage far enough from the dam. I believe the industry standard I was told was 300 feet away from that dam at minimum, which actually puts it almost approximately onto past the Salt Lake City parcel onto the Saratoga Springs City parcel and state land.
So if we master plan this area in partnership with ULA, does that increase the possibility of outside grant funding coming in to help pay for these amenities that ULA would want to do? These would be ULA amenities, or ULA installed, turned over to city? What are you thinking there?
So you got two questions in there.
Yep.
The first being around funding. Anytime you're going to have collaboration, you're going to increase your odds of funding, right? You're going to have more support for letters of support, for financial contribution, et cetera. That said, I would point out that the Lake Commission and the Lake Authorities previously helped secure funding without any kind of requirements around it, just because we want to see improvements at the lake, right? We helped support the TTAB requests that the city did for the marinas. We've done whatever we can to help on existing projects. We're currently securing additional federal funding. We got $2.5 million for recreation at the lake, a part of which has been in discussion with Jeremy on either marina needs or trail needs for Saratoga Springs. So I'm not going to hold the city somehow hostage by saying you have to do our plan for us to fund things, right? We want to find shared objectives wherever we can. But yes, a shared master plan would tie things closer and provide more of those shared objectives in advance so that we can pursue those together. I think also it makes a grant application more favorable for state grants. In regards to your question about the amenities, the approach the authority currently takes on improvements is that we work collaboratively and seek to find that shared objective so that people want to pursue projects, because our goal is not to maintain and own a variety of amenities and structures and equipment across the lake. Currently, we operate our life jacket loaner program stations at the lake, our marina cameras, and then our pedestrian and vehicle counters at the lake. Every other project we're pursuing is done in conjunction with the access point manager, and they accept ownership of those improvements and maintenance moving forward. So that's part of why we don't make it binding, is we're not going to try and bind you to something that you then have to go do and maintain. But we try to do so in a way that is collaborative.
Okay, and just so you know, most of my questions I know the answer to. I want to get them out there.
No, they're great. Appreciate them.
Can you go to all the questions at the end?
Oh, yeah.
If we're done with this map.
Yeah, I'm good, so
Yeah,
let
yeah.
the council.
I just want to say
I did
that.
have one question on the
Oh,
map, and it's,
yeah.
we
Oh,
got
go
some
back
new
to
members of the council, and I just want to, this dotted line that kind of bisects the property, that is the compromise line, which is basically the high water mark that the state has settled on as far as if the lake were at its highest point. And so we've never really talked about that as a council with some of the newer members, and I just wanted to point out that compromise line is actually kind of important, and it deals with trails around the lake, it deals with what's state land versus private land and things of that nature. But again, just kind of wanted to point to that as an illustrative example of something that's that high water mark or that compromised line is something that governs, all of Utah Lake.
Like where you build, where you do what, or what does it govern?
It governs where you build, but it also governs kind of whatever you do, it's going to probably need to be west of that line, unless it's something, like, for example, the lake at times can flood up and into those areas and things. It's been a while, but it can do that. And so that compromise line is just something that is a jurisdictional boundary that we would I just wanted to make you aware of it as it goes through the city, so.
So would you not build a paved trail then down to the lake on that state land? Is that even something we could do?
To clarify, you can. So
Okay. You
can.
it gets a bit complicated. Mark's
Wait, Emma,
trying
what
to
was your
highlight to
question?
something that's a very in-depth conversation.
If
Where
we
it comes
could
to the
do a paved
compromise
trail
line at
down to
Utah
the
Lake, it more or less reflects the state boundary. Doesn't always. There have been a few instances, including in Saratoga Springs, where private land does get owned below the water mark. That was a very long, in fact, they're not still done settling it. That started in 1985, I think was the outcome of the lawsuit that established that line. The State Division of Forestry, Fire, and State Lands has been working to settle and agree where that line is with landowners ever since, and there's still a few that they've not settled around the lake. So there's that application. That application of compromise has to do with land ownership, but it also has to do with where water levels are managed. So they try to avoid flooding, as Mark mentioned as well. The land that's considered sovereign, so not always the land below the high water mark, but where it is sovereign, because it can vary a little bit, they have a very long list of public uses they have to manage that land for. It needs to be maintained open to the public. It can't be changed into private ownership. And there's a whole long list. To answer your question about like a trail or access points, they have to evaluate it in the big picture. So for example, a trail. We want to have a trail all the way around Utah Lake. If we were to try and say, hey, Forestry, Fire, and State Lands, let's put that trail just inside that high water mark, because then we only have to deal with one landowner all the way around the lake, they'd say no, because what that does is limit other kinds of access to the lake. We can go on to that in certain fashions within the approved and permitted approach, though. So we've talked about a need for a trail. There's a couple spots on the east side, particularly on Provo Bay right now that we're working on, where the trail will have to cross onto sovereign land. There's not another landowner option because it's right next to I-15. That will still have to go through all of the Army Corps permitting, environmental permitting, and land permitting with Forestry, Fire, and State Lands, but they've given us an initial, yes, if you go to this is something we can do, we'll evaluate it. So it's a quite complicated answer, but
Just one
hopefully that
question, too.
helps.
What are the circles? Are those trees?
Oh, you know what? I honestly forgot to ask him. I was going to ask before I came. I'm not sure what he marked there. They may
I didn't know
have
if
been
they were
trees
hot
looking at
pods.
the
Lemons.
Those are all
locations.
the Russian
Lemons.
olives that need to be pulled out.
Yeah.
probably.
He's flagging them ahead of time for us, right?
I think you could safely say they're a shrubbery of some sort.
Okay. Anyway, okay. I'll wait till we go to the questions, so.
Okay.
Audrey, you were trying to go back to the question?
Yeah,
Go back to the map one more time. I'm sorry.
Oh,
So the
no,
dark
you're good.
line is kind of like hey, this is the area that we're looking at right now, kind of like what we could do with this entire area, or bits and pieces of it, right? The
Yeah,
big black thing
this
around it.
was my proposal of we don't want to go beyond this.
Yes,
This is the
okay.
most we would go, but we're
Okay.
happy to reduce to what the
Less
city council would like
or
us
that
to look
big
at.
area or something. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Okay, now you can go with the questions. So
Okay.
I can start answering them for you.
You're good. So that is my first question on there is initial thoughts from today. I'd like to understand more the area you'd like us to consider. If you'd like us to just focus on simply the portage and that's it, or if we look at, and I really wish I could point a laser at it for you, but right along the actual closest to the lake portion, we plan some other amenities, like maybe the trail comes to the portage and also goes out to a fishing jetty or something, for example. Or would you like us to propose initially things that go further inland on the parcel?
So, sorry, conversations that you've maybe had prior to this meeting, what, do you guys have a vision that you can picture, like, hey, if Saratoga Springs Council said, ULA, we trust you, do what you want, what is your vision? Do you guys have that yet, or is this just the start of the conversation?
This is the start of it.
Okay.
The only two vision things I talk about are
Is
angling access,
yeah.
because I know that's one of the primary uses at this spot for the lake from my own personal observations over the years of coming here. I go out at least once a quarter to all the access points on the lake and check in on them. And then the portage issue that's been raised several times. Those are the two main things. Okay. Any other thoughts on the first question?
If you go back to
there?
the map for your
Yes.
entire parcel, I would probably do from this, there's that trail marked right there. Kind of in the middle of the city portion going down. I would kind of go to that side towards the lake more personally.
Where the existing trail is running through the
Yeah,
parcel, from
the
there
existing
towards the
trail.
lake, maybe?
Towards
Okay.
the lake. I will say, I went and tried to walk this with a stroller yesterday.
It's in
It
rough
stopped.
condition. Yeah.
Yeah, it is stopped at some point, so I did stop and go around, although my 4-year-old cried for 30 minutes because he couldn't go to the lake. So I will say, having a place to go to the lake easier would be a really great thing for our families. So
Sure.
that's something that I know lots of families enjoy.
Appreciate that.
Mayor Karn mentioned earlier that we had previously looked at this as a rec center. One of the things that we'd incorporated into the rec center concept was that we could do rentals of paddle boards out of the rec center, or we could incorporate it in. And Owen just kind of made a comment to me, which was having access to the lake and potentially other uses on that site, they're not mutually exclusive. They can be very collaborative and very beneficial. And so, again, I don't think the rec center's something in the near term, but we could do a lot of things with this and partner with this master planning process that I think could be amazing opportunities for funding and other things that may service some of the water needs of our community in the interim. So it's fundamentally, I think, a great conversation for us to have as to what is the long-term vision, what's the short-term vision, and what would you like to see happen in kind of the interim. And I think the offer for them to help master plan this, I think, is a great opportunity for us to, basically, partner and have access to other resources that can enhance for the community. So again, please, just because we've had that conversation in the past, they're not mutually exclusive, and they could be very, very cohesive with how we move forward into the future.
Sam, there's a big elephant in the room in this area, is those hot pots down there.
Yeah.
Could part of this master plan being improved access, improved amenity for that?
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely something that could be included. I know that, for instance, the trail, I know that there's a connection coming in for the actual Lakeshore Trail going south towards the HOA area, but it's definitely an area that could be planned and proposed.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, just having had to drag kayaks through it, I think a portage would be beneficial for a number of reasons, because otherwise you're just going to the river and just getting out there. That would be a fairly nice amenity to put there or something. I don't know what that would look like. I wouldn't want to see a whole lot of money spent on that unless we could get some grant funding for that. But also, a number of people do like to drop a line in the water. So, when you're talking about fishing, are you talking about platforms? And how would that work with the high water mark? And because
Yeah.
when you start building amenities like that, it's subject to flooding. And is that high water mark going to change based on the
Yeah.
what's required to release down the river to the Great Salt Lake?
Oh, that's a great question. At this level of the master plan, we probably would not go into specific. We would leave it broad of stating what kind of angler amenity would look like, right? It would say some kind of angler access. Wouldn't say, oh, it's going to be a floating platform, this size, this, et cetera, right? It'd be more broad. That said, we actually do have a separate study that we're pursuing with the Division of Wildlife Resources. We were trying to get funding this year for it through the Habitat Council grant program, and it wasn't a move forward, so we're hoping for next year. But what that study is going to look at is actually angling amenities across the entire lake. What access points are best suited for it, what types of structures are best suited as well. I think that will heavily inform that question that you have. In the meantime, we actually have a couple of graduate students that we're bringing on this summer that are doing what we refer to as benchmarking research for us. They're basically spending their entire summer going out on any topic we give them, carp removal, angler amenities, adaptive recreation, looking at across the world what is done, what's the best practice, right? What type of equipment, what kind of policies, what risk management, everything we can consider to implement what's the best currently. And I think that this is a great fit for them as well in trying to identify those. To somewhat answer your question as to how it would have to be addressed, it would need to be designed to handle fluctuating lake levels. If we were to build a structure that is not permanent, like a jetty, like a rock jetty, if I remember correctly, if it's docks, they actually have to be removable. So that would be an element of the conversation that would need to be discussed. For instance, if we're building a removable dock and the city owns it, there has to be a plan in place for when it has to be removed, et cetera. So there are some elements that would need to be parsed out. at this master plan, it would be more identifying where does it make sense to have one and reserving that space in the plan. And then in the next phase, pursuing what those would look like as far as designs.
So if I were to elaborate on that, if you look at kind of where the inlet is, theoretically, we could get permission from the state lands to have a dock down here going out in. And then by October 15th, we'd have to pull it off and probably drag it up onto our property in the city. But those are things that could be options that we would consider. We would certainly, want to be cognizant of what that impact might look like. But again, if we're putting it out, before our landscaping season begins, our parks crew probably could have some flexibility to, get the dock out for the year. And then also if we can do it, later in the season, pull it back in before it freezes, it would give us flexibility to where those are kinds of things that could be, good amenities that we add and, kind of might be cool with the dock. When we get into a workshop in the next couple of weeks, we actually have near map imagery where we can show you kind of back in history, and we could go back and see where kind of high water marks have been and low water has been. And so if that's a conversation you want to continue, say perhaps in our next workshop in St. George or something like that, we could continue that conversation looking for some alternatives. I'd pull it up tonight, but I don't.
I think
Yeah,
that
and I don't even know if there might be enough hot spring in there, it doesn't freeze.
I think that would be a good idea, because this is the first time I'm seeing this, so it's coming to me as a little bit of a surprise that we're headed this direction. So I'd like to have the council spend some time on that before we can give you any reasonable feedback. I don't think
Sure.
I've had enough time to consider everything that you're talking about at this point.
You're good. That's exactly the format Mark and I discussed on the phone, was trying to give you the initial information, access to me right now, and then give you a more in-depth chance to discuss ideas further. So not from today, to be clear, I was not going to require any kind of I need direction from today. Anything you give me is great to get them started, but they're already aware that we're waiting to make sure we have this feedback for sure.
Has ULA hired an engineering firm already?
So at this point, a Landmark Design has actually subcontracted with, and I apologize, I forget the firm's name actually just now, but they have an engineer for the consulting level. We're not going into engineering level designs on any of
No,
these.
but to do the master plan.
So the master plans themselves are conceptual. He's there to inform that so that we don't conceptually design something that won't work engineering wise, but we're not actually doing engineering level plans, if that makes sense.
Yep.
One thing that I actually just occurred to me is this is probably the location we're going to need a future pump station. So we may want to look at setting aside a spot.
The pump station's actually located inside the jetty. So this is south of the bridge going to the lake. So it would be the lake portage. The pump station would be more to the inlet side, closer to the pumps into the Jordan River. So again, and I mentioned that, I think, to Sam on the phone. At some point, we look to build another marina, and I think I talked about this on our tour, kind of like we have down at, pump station, not a marina, pump station.
It's like another one.
Yeah, no, sorry.
Third marina.
Pump station like we have down at the South Marina, we would build that on the Jordan River side. So essentially, the canal companies would pump the water into the Jordan River, and we'd pull it straight out of the Jordan River at that point, and then boost that out to the city. But it wouldn't conflict with this property that's in this conceptual plan.
So my, I'm sorry.
No,
Lance.
go ahead. Are you on, if that topic is, you can stay on.
I don't-
I have something else, but go ahead.
Just to answer the question, just these four here, I really believe that you should not necessarily look at the entire parcel map, just the lake-related amenities. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that we are or we're not going to have a recreation center, and even if that's the right place, but I don't think it would be something I would like to see us, have you guys work on for the rest of that parcel. So I think just lakeside amenities, fisherman access, portage, maybe trail improvements down through the area is about.
Yeah. That's, so.
Yeah,
go-
as long as it's, maybe hot pot.
Appreciate that feedback. Thank you.
So to me, this is kind of our identity a little bit, Saratoga Springs, this area.
Sure.
When we have history, I know that's a little bit further south, but Saratoga Springs, people come here, and I think we have such an opportunity here. I'm not an artist, and I'm not on the creative side like some others are. So if you bring something, but I would love to take advantage of those hot pods and the other things that were mentioned here, but a plan on how we can utilize those, make them more public access. my teenagers, when they were teenagers, they would go there. I'd like, more access to maybe people that aren't so physically fit, but, just amenities and stuff like that. So anyway.
Sure.
I think he's asking for the Ferris wheel and the whole swimming pool. Not just kidding.
I mean, there were, I think, 20 different resorts on Utah Lake at one point. Maybe we can
Well,
make
there
one
was-
come
there
back.
And a
was-
big one right
yeah.
here.
Yeah.
But yeah,
This was the
honoring our
last one to close,
heritage.
actually, in the 1980s.
Saratoga Springs. I mean, this is the only thing I'd come into the city before I moved here, before my brother moved here like 8 years ago, was the hot springs. So I do
Sure.
think that
It's an
yeah.
identifying feature for sure.
that having more access to that would be a really great thing. Particularly, there is no ADA access at the moment. So
Yeah.
thinking about that, and as someone who pushes stroller a lot, same thing for me.
Sure. Understandable. Okay. Let's see. We've hit on lake-related amenities. We like paddling and angling, hot springs, trail maybe.
Could you
I
give
think
us
we-
an example of what the less lake-related items that are being considered in other places?
Good question. Honestly, I threw that on as a catch-all of like if there's something you guys really want us to consider in here that might not. I mean, you could argue that I don't know. For example, a bike rack over in the parking lot, is that really lake-related? Kind of. It's less lake-related because you could ride that bike wherever you want. But it was also just an invitation of if you want us to have this whole parcel and you want us to not design a recreation center, but reserve a spot on that for that, we could do that. It was just an invitation that you're welcome to provide us input on anything you'd like us to consider. So I think, at least for today, you've given me some initial thoughts to consider. I think what I would request maybe, Mark, if I can, into the council with your work sessions planned, I think maybe these same 4 questions, but providing a bit more concrete answer. If you feel comfortable even maybe drawing a line on a map to show us, hey, from here towards the lake, we like you to consider, but other than that, no. That would help us to make sure that what we're doing is productive for us, but also for you as well as a partner in this.
So Sam, if you could go back to the slide that
Yes.
had kind of the steps in your study.
Yep, right here.
Yeah, so, I mean, I guess technically we're kind of in that March, April phase, so we're basically, this would be the kickoff site visit, I'm assuming, of some sort, but we're kind of in that phase. So we would then be advancing into something that ultimately goes into more public meetings, online surveys, things of that nature. So council, if you're thinking of and brainstorming ideas, we'll work with Sam, pass those along, and then he can start to develop those as their consultants go more into that, so.
Mark, if we could just put this on our conversation for next week.
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
I think that gives council enough time to think about it. We can come, I don't think this will take very much time for us to draw a line on the map and give our feedback, so.
If I may, too, one last item I forgot to mention around the schedule. So with Inlet Park specifically, well, back up, we're actually using 7 different public methods of gathering information about access at the lake and what people want already. We've done a variety of online surveys. We did intercept surveys on site at the lake. We did some focus groups. And then we're also doing yet again more. We'll have another survey specifically around these master plans and these 11 access points. We also will have, I can't remember if it's 1 or 2 public meetings, open houses, specifically over here in Saratoga Springs. So that's something that you can encourage your residents to come and be able to comment on. Inlet Park specifically is what that'll be topic for.
I think we have a space you could use for that
I think you do.
public meeting.
I think that'd be great. So we wanted to make sure that we have, since this is unique in that it's a city-managed one, that city residents had a chance to also have feedback on what they'd like to see potentially. So
We can hold that down in the community room at the police station.
That's great. That's a perfect view of the lake. Sam, anything else?
that's all I have. Thank you very much for your time. I
Thank you, Sam.
all of it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And Sam, you're welcome to stay. I mean, we have,
I am working on
A
my
riveting
MPA,
agenda.
so it's very riveting, but I should get home to my wife and
all
girls.
right. I
Thank
know
you
you
all.
love meetings. Okay, we'll move to, council good, keep going? Okay, we're gonna move to business item 1, tentative budget presentation FY 26-27. Balanced budget report, the summary of the budget request for FY 26-27 including proposed tax rate increase to fund public safety. And I'll turn that over to City Manager Mark Christensen.
And Mr. Quain will be giving us.
And I'll
the
turn it over to
write-up.
Spencer.
Perfect. So I guess a little bit of background. This is our first city council presentation of the budget for next year. Just a little background. I started this process back in September when I started going through and cleaning up spreadsheets. There's a lot of those, thanks to Mark. In October, we sent out emails to departments asking them for basically like, what are your anticipated needs? What are you wanting to see changes wise in your guys' budgets for next year? They, of course, need to check with HR. They work with fleet if they have vehicle requests. And then they get that into us in November. In December, we meet with those departments and they explain those budget requests. So like if they're asking for a body, they're asking for a new vehicle, they explain to a small team, city staff, of why are they making this request, making a justification to staff, to the executive team. And also during that time, I'm meeting with Mark, Shalice, and Owen to project out revenues for the next year. Most revenues for the city are fairly stable, but some are fairly dynamic. Sales tax is kind of the biggest example there, where it fluctuates more. Mostly it's been just growing with the growth of the city. After December, we meet in January with Mark, Owen, Shalice, and myself, where we go through and look at a big picture of all the different budget requests, as well as with HR to go over pay plan adjustments. During that time, we met with many of you with HR to go over those pay plan adjustments. And also, since that time, we've met with you in smaller group settings to kind of go over those budget requests, be able to go in depth and explain more what they're asking. And then usually, so those of you who've been with the city longer, like usually we present some of the stuff a bit earlier. But as we were meeting in the process, it was the public safety asks were so big with the new fire station anticipated and for police needs, that it was during our discussions that probably a property tax was going to have to be a part of our discussion. And so that is why we're doing this a little bit later than past years when I've been doing this with the city. And so we had 2 weeks ago, was it the property tax meeting, where we met with you and kind of discussed scenarios there, and be able to kind of give a calculation of what are the effects of citizens and households in the city if we raise property tax by so much amounts. Direction from the council that we received at that time was to look at a $3.1 million property tax increase. The public safety, my notes here. So fire was asking for 1.8 million, and police was asking for 1.5. And so the property tax increase would cover most of their requested asks. In the staff report, we have a summary of all the different department asks and the recommendations on whether or not the city should approve those. In addition, in the packet, we have a summary of department changes over time for different operating departments since 2023, just kind of showing the growth of their budgets, or for some cases for them, the lack of growth. In addition, we have a report in there that shows the balanced budget. And then this is something new that we had to do this year. As part of state law for property tax increase, we have to present an alternative recommendation list to the council. And the alternative is, it looks exactly like the other one, except we have highlighted in yellow the various items that were recommended to be approved in the original version, but would be withdrawn if the property tax increase was not approved. And then also as part of that, we included a draft notice that would be, if the city council decided to go forward with property tax increase, would be sent out as part of this whole process as well.
Mayor, if I can elaborate a little bit more. Part of this conversation really began in earnest in last calendar year, which culminated in us actually having a rather long work session with the council in August to talk about the needs of a new fire station. And so Spencer was talking about the budget public safety impacts for this year, but we're really talking about a multi-year public safety impact increase in what's being asked for. Right now, the council previously has adopted some budget amendments, which will let us move forward with stationing some fire or some ambulance public safety staff over at the Public Works site. And so we anticipate by the end of this fiscal year, we'll have a staffed ambulance parked on this eastern side of the city. We've begun the process of designing a new fire station, and part of this request is looking over the next several years of adding additional staff both to police and fire and what that impact will look like. And just, kind of in general, we anticipate about a $6 million increase to operating expenditures, and that's operating expenditures that are ongoing expenditures for public safety. Part of this, we are not asking the council to raise property taxes to pay for the new fire station. We will finance that and then ultimately get reimbursed with impact fees in the future for new growth. So new growth will pay for the new fire station. It will pay for some of the new fire equipment that would be stationed at that station. However, you cannot use impact fees to pay for the operational expenses associated with it. And so as we're looking into the future, there is a lot of requests. The police department's asking for a new lieutenant, a new sergeant, 4 new police officers. We have a lot of demands, and we go off of metrics to help determine whether it's an appropriate time to add staffing. And so typically, like in the police department, we look at the number of reports that the officers are being involved with on an annual basis. And we've crossed over that threshold. So we see a definite need to add additional staffing so that we can bring those numbers back down to more manageable workloads. But even with that, we still have a rather high workload for our officers as statistically we look at our staffing metrics. With the fire department, that is based on the analysis that we did back in August of last year. And if you want, we can recirculate to the new council members the slides and findings associated with that. But essentially, we're talking about a need for us to reduce our response times from that safety critical care component, as well as having strategically placed our fire response apparatus strategically across the city so that we have the best response for our community. And so we've been growing really quickly since 2000. We understand that. You know, some people have brought up the notion of, hey, new growth should pay for this. And as the city builds and gets new property taxes, you know, we should be keeping up with this. The problem is with new growth, the property taxes are assessed as of January 1 of a year. So let's take any vacant lot in the city on January 1. If someone were to come and pull a building permit on January 2nd, we would still only get the property tax value for the land portion of that. That new growth for the value of that home and property tax, we wouldn't actually see that until December 23 months later is when we would actually start to see that revenue come in. And so let's assume that it takes 6 months to build it. Well, you've got 6 months worth of time where police and fire would potentially be reporting to a construction site or something of that nature. And then the home would become occupied, and then we'd provide services for, let's assume, a 6-month build. We'd be providing services for 18 months before we'd actually see any of those property tax dollars actually at the city. Because those distributions come, they're due in November, we get the distributions in December, and then they'll trickle in after that. And so the concept that new growth should pay for new growth, we honor that and we respect that, and we try and make sure that we're doing that. But for example, certain revenue types can only be used for specific things. And so, you know, across all of the different funds that we have in the city, some of them are restricted to, say, only roads. That's our B&C road funds. Impact fees can only be used for impact fee eligible projects in the impact fee fund that it's collected for. There's specific revenues across all kinds of things and a lot of complexities associated with that. But at this time, we see this ongoing expense, you know, going up $6 million over the next couple of years with public safety. We see that as something that is a large ongoing expense. And given the variable nature of some of our other revenue streams, the property tax, we're asking for a portion of that to be covered, not all of it. Some of that will be covered through other revenue streams, which we feel is safe to anticipate for future operations. But we're trying to be very judicious so that we're not overextending the variable revenue streams that we may not be able to control as much as we could, say, a property tax, which will consistently generate the same amount of revenue. One other thing is when you set a property tax rate, the rate will fluctuate. It'll go up or down. So if property values are increasing, the rate will go down to only generate that amount of property tax. And so for this year, we're, you know, just under $5 million is the budgeted revenue. If this property tax were approved, it would boost us up to about, you know, $3.1 million above where we're at today, which would be, you know, $9 million ballpark. But that then number would then get set. And as value comes online, as new homes come online, we would get new growth that's associated with that new property coming into the city or those new buildings being built in the city. But over time, as the values continue to go up, the rate will go down so that we would still only collect that number that new tax rate would be set at. And so again, new growth is the way that property taxes grow. They grow delayed. As I was trying to illustrate in this explanation, property taxes are a year, sometimes 2 years behind when we actually start providing services to those particular homes and things of that nature. So it's a very delicate balance, and I apologize for my long-winded response, but we want to make sure that we're staying structurally fit as it relates to property taxes covering a portion of the public safety. Again, we've always viewed property taxes in the time that I've been here since 2010 for exclusively towards public safety. So as we look at it, property taxes continue to pay for public safety, and this would just be increasing the percentage back up to kind of historic norms of how public safety has been funded in the past. And so we'd be happy to tackle questions tonight, not necessarily a public hearing, but it's definitely an introduction to this topic. We believe that this is, budget requests that are meeting the needs as our departments have identified them for the community. And we want to, hopefully be able to go forward and continue to provide good services for the community, but do it in a conservative way. And so, I'd turn it back to Spencer. Any additional comments that he wanted to make tonight?
Spencer, anything additional?
I guess just one comment is I've been here since 2020 and the city's doubled. It's been amazing and a lot.
Okay, all this is tonight is a presentation.
Yes.
There's no vote being taken tonight. Are there any other comments or questions from the council? I know we've had a lot of conversations over the last several months on this topic, individually and as a group in different noticed meetings, but anything else for tonight?
I think it's, for those who are here and those who are listening online, there was some commentary about, that I've heard from others that say, why shouldn't we, just take some of our general fund and fund for ongoing cost? And I think that's really not fiscally responsible to fund ongoing costs with what you might call your savings account, if you will. I don't do it. Most people, I would discourage anybody from using their savings account to fund their ongoing expenses. We have to match the revenues with the operational expenses. When it comes to impact fees to build out things like a fire station, that helps. So the growth helps build those things, but we also have to staff them, as it's been pointed out. And I think it's important for people to realize that if we were to form a government or a city today, with a group of people, the thing that we would want to make sure that we had was mutual protection, fire, and police. We want to have roads, we want to have clean water, and we don't want to have sewer. For me, that is the proper role of government in providing those things if we're going to live in a community together, and that those property taxes are meant for those things. To use other types of funding, like dependent upon sales tax for those type of things, I think is probably not the right way to go because of the variability of those things. Economic, recessions can cause those to go down, and then what do? So I think it's appropriate that we match the expenses with where the revenue is coming from, and the proper matching, in my mind, is property taxes. I don't like paying property taxes. I don't like seeing increased property taxes. Personally, I think that I would like to pay less. But the fact is our property tax is a percentage of the overall tax on our properties. The property tax for the city is a very small portion, and only we're in the bottom of all the cities in Utah County, like a number third from the bottom, I think, in the amount of property taxes that we charge. So moving forward, I hope that we can bring more transparency. I mean, the transparency is there, but more education to the residents to understand that this is the proper matching of our expenses with revenue, and that's through property taxes for these basics. Everything else is just extra, whether it's parks and recreation, those types of things. Those are extra. At the minimum, we need public safety to be funded.
Okay, just so everyone's aware, this is just a budget presentation. We will have a public hearing, and we will have to have a truth and taxation meeting in August around this. Any other questions or comments tonight?
Mayor, just as an observation, because of the new laws in property tax, that's part of what somewhat delayed our conversation on this, is we were waiting to see this new legislation as it's rolled out. We will need to have, in our first meeting in May, we will need to adopt a tentative budget. That will not solidify the property tax, but it will give us a continuing operations budget for us to move forward. And then we would still do the truth and taxation, and finally, you would set, everything would be finished. That's not my phone. So essentially, what would be happening though is we'd be walking down that path over the next few months. We fundamentally will be having the required meeting next council meeting. We are required to hold a separate public hearing discussing the property tax increase, and there's some specifics that we'll be following. So again, that's out of the normal for us, but I just wanted to put that on your agenda, that next council meeting, there will be a very specific public hearing related to the property tax discussion that is now part of the process to be able to implement a tax increase.
I'm probably preaching to the choir, because if anybody's listening to this or in the audience, they probably are aware of the publications that have gone out. I want to say thanks to the city for informing the public. Chris and Emma, I think, made some comments, but if you want to get some good education, get some good foundation for what we're talking about here, go read those and come back with questions. But I want to say that this council does not, as Rob kind of mentioned too, I've been here for 2 years, and this is the most difficult conversation I've had so far. We don't take this lightly. We counsel with each other. I've sat on porches. I've gone to people's homes. They've talked to me on the phone. So this is not, there's a lot of thought and effort that goes into this, and that's what I want to say. Thanks.
I just want to thank city staff for your work on this. This is a really hard discussion. It's clear from some numbers, both for our officers and for our fire, that we just have a real need to make what I think is a generational investment to catch up on the growth that we've had, to fund to that response time. For those who don't know, the response time is at the 90th percentile. If I'm saying it right, is about 10.5 minutes. It should be about 5.5.
Two very limited areas of the city.
For certain areas of the city, not for the whole city. But that is, I'm not saying that to fearmonger. I'm saying that because that just shows a real need. And so we are trying to make that investment in the real need at what we believe is hopefully a subsidized price, so it doesn't impact our residents as much as it could. So that's my 2 cents.
Can I just
Thank
make
you.
my quick comment too?
Thanks, staff, for your work
Yeah.
on that. It's really hard to get that line. That's a fine line to walk.
I will kind of speak on behalf of the rest of the city council, but kind of not as well. I just want to make sure the public knows, please reach out to us. We're all willing, emails, phone calls, conversations on the front porch, whatever. This is a big, hard decision, and we want to make sure everybody knows that we're all open and we'll talk and we'll answer questions and anything that everybody needs. So
I think it's also important to point out that we're just looking at the 12% that's the city portion of the taxes. It's not your entire property
Yeah.
taxes. It's just
the city
portion.
Which on about a $550,000 home is about $13.50 per month, which is, and we'll
I think we're-
publish the exact number.
Yeah, we'll get into the details
Yeah.
at the appropriate time. So anything else from the council on this? Okay, let's move on to business item number
Real
2.
quick.
Oh,
I would say the packet is publicly available. People can look at this proposed budget. They can go line by line, as we all have, I believe. Gone line by line, look at that. You see that not every request is approved. We're not just willy-nilly saying, I'll approve everything that anyone ever asked for. This is a very thoughtful, our city's grown, our staff hasn't grown as fast as our city's grown. What can we do to ensure a level of service and quality of life for our residents while not overcharging them? And so I welcome you. Anyone, I did talk to someone last night that I sent the budget to. I'm happy to talk to anyone about that, as I think anyone in the council and probably staff even are willing to.
okay. Good. All right, great. Let's move to something a little more exciting. Business item 2, award of contract for construction for the Saratoga Road and Pony Express widening project with Geneva Rock, Resolution R26-17, dated today. Jeremy,
Thank you, Mayor.
and I'm excited for this one. It's a long time coming.
And I'm excited about what a great price we got.
Yep.
So we had a lot of interest, 8 bidders. Just to refresh everyone's memory or anyone who's listening, this is the project that will widen Saratoga Road, AKA 2300 West, to 5 lanes. It's mostly widened to 5 lanes now, but there's a handful of properties that, developed around. So that's Saratoga Road from Pioneer Crossing down to Pony Express, and then east to 5 lanes all the way to the city boundary with Lehigh. So the engineers had an estimate of about $14.5 million for this project, and the low bidder was Geneva Rock in the amount of $10.9 million. And that includes some add-ons. So we thought, we did these add-ons not knowing the price we would get. So we said, okay, if we can afford it, we'll do them. If not, so one of them is a signal at 1100 West. That's the Lehigh address. That's the Dry Creek Elementary Road. So that's pretty important. We know it's not per se quite today, but just around the corner, there's a need for that. But now's a really strategic time to do that. Upsizing the box culvert at Dry Creek. Again, Lehigh's been doing a multi-year study looking at the capacity of Dry Creek all the way up. There's multiple bottlenecks that prevent bigger flows from coming down, but Lehigh has a long-term plan to upgrade those bottlenecks. So this allows us to make sure that we are prepared to receive larger flows of water at some point in the future when they resolve all the upstream bottlenecks. And then just a variety of other pavement improvement and preservation things. So yeah, great pricing. It's going to really benefit the city and allow us to stretch our dollars.
Jeremy, this signalizes Pony and Old
Yes.
Saratoga Road and the 1100 West intersection.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that, Mayor. The base bid always included signalizing Pony Express and Saratoga Road.
Right.
And then the add-on was the signal at the east end of the project, 1100 West.
So, Jeremy, I think it's important to know, because we just talked about budgets for a while. A lot of municipal budget is not one gigantic bucket of money we can use how we want, right? This money is Saratoga money and MAG money that MAG is helping fund, and this is money we get in July? Or are we pre-funding?
We're going to be funding it, and then we'll be getting reimbursed by MAG. Technically, some of the money became available for us in January.
Okay.
It was 26 money, so starting in January. So we will be paying the cost, and then we'll be getting reimbursements throughout the project. But this project will exceed, I believe, the amount, Jeremy? Will it exceed the amount in
The MAG funding?
No, I think it's within the MAG funding as far as the match. So MAG funding is approximately 93% MAG funded, 7% city match.
Okay,
So, knock on wood, there's a lot of unknowns still.
Yep.
Our obligation would be 7% of this amount, and then the match, or the MAG funding would be 93% of
and
it.
Jeremy, there'll be a lot of questions from people, because not the city of Saratoga Springs, but TSSD did a large project on that road that had that road shut down for a long time to put in future infrastructure. Most of this work, correct me if I'm wrong, will take place on the shoulders, outside of the final coat, the final asphalt.
Our plan is to work very closely with the contractor to minimize any lane closures, to take advantage of the 2 summer seasons. So the contract completion date for this, I believe, is like July or August, before school starts in 2027.
Okay.
So that gives this contractor 2 full summers to do work, and we can, the contractor will get a notice of award tomorrow, based on your motion, and they'll have about a month or so to get their contracts in place and to begin building their schedule for the project. So as we build the schedule with them, negotiate and things out, my goal is in the next 30 or 60 days, I'll be able to present to you, and we can roll out to the public a more specific schedule as far as what components of the project will affect where. But again, our directive to the contractor is to minimize lane closures as much as possible, and to take advantage of the 2 summer seasons to do work that could potentially have a greater impact on the schools.
And I know you haven't had a pre-con meeting, but you've built a few roads.
A few.
Do you foresee us tackling one part of this project first and then another, or will they be happening simultaneously? Like, we're gonna do Saratoga Road first and then Pony, or vice versa? Or we do it,
We can, yeah,
All,
so I have preferences. So my preference is, if possible, I would love to get the intersection done this summer.
the intersection of Pony and
Pony
Saratoga?
and, that would be my preference, to get that done this summer before school gets back in.
That's all the widening of the intersection?
Yeah, because that's, I think, in my mind, going to be the most impactful portion of
Yep.
the project. But the contractor is, I guess, contractually allowed within limitation.
Flexibility.
To do what they need to do to get the job done, right? They've said this is how they've given us a very low price, and they probably have their own strategies for how they're going to deliver this. So until I've met with them, we're gonna have to negotiate kind of our wants with their wants.
That's fair.
And so again, my goal is in the next 30, 60 days, we can have that detail and bring that back to you.
And I know we've got 2 landowners that we're finalizing with. Is that progressing?
Yes.
Thank you.
We don't have any power poles that need to be moved, do we?
Oh, yes, we do. Not the big ones, though. We designed around the big ones. We do have a variety of the smaller poles right around the intersection along the east side of Saratoga Road 2300, right around Pony. There's some, you'll see.
Those will be undergrounded as
Those
part
will
of
be
this.
undergrounded. There's a low-hanging Comcast fiber, and then there's a few, there's like 3 or 4 service drops to some older farm homes. Most of those will just go away as part of the project. So I think there's 2 homes that get demolished as part of this project on the south side of the road. And so those service laterals will also be removed. But the big steel poles, there's a big steel pole at both signalized intersections. We're not touching those.
And I want to point out, this also involved a great deal of coordination with MAG to buy right-of-way. And so MAG and other funding sources have come in big to help us acquire the right-of-way we need to do this. To Mayor Karn's point, part of this expansion will be building a road on top of where they had built the sewer over the past couple of years. So we actually have, a spot where they've got good road base down, and it's us adding on top of what's already been built. And so in some regards, there's some elements to this project that are good and should move fairly quickly. But again, trying to minimize the impacts overall. It's building a road in Utah, so we apologize for the orange cones, but we are excited for what this will bring. Now, Jeremy, let's just get very clear with council. This is essentially doing the 5-lane widening from just east of the bridge, or are we at 2300?
Just starting at 2300 Saratoga Road and going east. Just to go off on a tangent, but that leaves the last portion that's not, after this project's done, there'll be one last portion, and that's the portion from Patriot Park, or Tallulah Road, I think there's a stub road there, across the bridge to Saratoga Road /2300. That'll be the last remaining portion, not 5 lanes. We already secured funding for the bridge in 2028 at $14 million from MAG, and this cycle, our request is for the abutting road property. So we have the section of the road west of the bridge and the section of the road east of the bridge. That's the money we're asking for from MAG now, and we're hopeful that when this process finishes later this summer, so the first round of, this is like a 3-phase application process. We were one of the highest scoring projects of all communities in the MAG. So looking good, knock on wood. So it looks very favorable that come 2028-ish, we would have the funding secured to finish that last portion.
And for my information, aren't we also applying for community development funds through Burgess Owens' office for this?
Correct.
Okay.
And we've also already begun the design work for the bridge project, so that is underway right now. So technically, if the council wanted to, we could pre-fund some of these road projects. It's a decision for a later time, but we could pre-fund some of these projects and then get reimbursed in 28 when the full funding becomes available.
So the whole point of my questioning, Mark, is so that the public understands, because this will look hodgepodge, right? We're going to widen one section of road to 5. We have Pony's 5 lanes. It's going to pinch down to 2, go over the bridge. It'll still be 2, then it's go back to 5 with this new project. There is a method to the madness, and it's all around funding
Correct.
and timing. So I know it may not feel sometimes like there's a plan, but there absolutely is a plan for Pony to be 5 lanes from the eastern Saratoga border out to Eagle Mountain. And that's in the next probably 3 to 4 years.
Yeah, and fundamentally, once the bridge is designed and once we learn about some of these other funding opportunities that we're going for, as a city, we have the ability to, like we've done in some of the other road projects, advance those projects to get them built quicker because we know that's one of the community's highest priorities. And so we're working on trying to get, some of those projects ready to go so that as soon as it's designed and ready to go, you as a council have the opportunity to say, let's pull the trigger and let's get going.
Yeah, I'd love to be able to use our capital funds to do that. And thank you, Jeremy. Coming in this much under budget was just really exciting to see.
Yeah,
So.
if all things go well, again, the more projects, right? The more we can stretch our dollars, the more
Yep.
projects we can fast track. So, and then I'll remind you a couple things. UDOT is supposed to finish their Flex Lane project the end of the summer, I believe. So we're going to again back to that scheduling. We're going to coordinate closely with UDOT to make sure that we don't overlap anything they're doing. And then you may have seen UTA is actually out there building their park and ride lot right now. And one of the things we were able to successfully negotiate is so they got MAG money too, right? Because they're also a member of MAG, and we work very closely to strategically expand the scope of their improvements to provide improvements to that intersection. So they will be signalizing the intersection of Seaside, which I think is 8th East. It's that signal
Yep.
between
Right before Public Works.
right just east of the bridge. So that reduce the cost of our future project.
Okay. Any other questions from the council? No, I'll entertain a motion, please.
I move that we approve business item 2, award of contract of construction for Saratoga Road, for the Saratoga Road and Pony Express widening project with Geneva Rock, resolution R26-17, dated today.
Second.
We have a first from Councilmember Wadman and a second from Councilmember Davenport. We'll do a roll call vote. Wilson?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Davenport?
Yes.
Barton?
Yes.
Wadman?
Yes.
That passes unanimously. We will take a 5-minute recess. We'll come back at about 7, let's call it 7:30.
Are there some kids looking to take pictures of you for extra credit?
If you need a picture for your class, let's take care of it. Okay, we are back from our recess. We are going to combine items 3 and 4 into one item. They're both reimbursement agreements. Item 3 is reimbursement agreement for Meadows at North Lake with Alpine Homes. And item 4 is reimbursement agreement for Fox Hollow Neighborhood for Jeremy.
Thank you, Mayor. Just briefly, the item number 3, Meadows at North Lake, that project's on Pony Express, east of Saratoga that we were just talking about. They have just a few items, a water line upsize, a storm drain upsize, and a roadway upsize. They're doing the frontage improvements on the north side of the road. So that's that reimbursement agreement. They'll get that in impact fee credits. And then the other one is the Fox Hollow Neighborhood 4. Primarily that deals with the intersection improvements they'll be making to the intersection of Redwood and Villages Parkway / Pintail. If you remember, as soon as those improvements are completed, UDOT will come put the signal in. So there's some improvements required outside the UDOT right away that is something that we have to do with the developer first. This reimbursement covers that, and once those are completed, UDOT will come do the signal. So those
Jeremy,
are,
what's the timing on that one? The Fox Hollow?
I think they're here, and they were just letting me know that they are ready to construct as fast as they can get these approvals and get the final signal plans approved by UDOT. So they are itching to construct right now.
So I should ask, is the applicant here for item 3 or 4? And would you like to add anything to Jeremy's presentation? Please state your name and address for the record. Should be on,
Yeah.
just get close.
David Kelly. I don't remember my work address.
Give us the city.
Draper, Utah.
There you go.
123rd South, Draper, Utah.
Okay.
So for the intersection at Fox Hollow for Village Parkway and Redwood Road, the plan is we would get start construction on that when school is out, so we don't exacerbate any problems, and then we'd be finishing up right about the time that school started.
Okay. So it's about a 75-day construction window.
Yeah.
Perfect. No comments. It's the perfect business item. Okay. Council, are there any questions from business item 3 or 4? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approved resolution 2618.
Hang on, 1 second. There you go.
Oh, is that better?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. I make a motion that we approved resolution 2618 as well as resolution 2619. Or do you want to take them separately?
No, we're doing them together.
Okay.
Okay, we've got a first
I
from.
second the motion.
We've got a first from
Taylor?
Taylor, thank you. A second from Wilson. We'll do a roll call vote, please. Wadman.
Yes.
Barton.
Yes.
Davenport.
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Wilson.
Yes.
Items 3 and 4 passed unanimously. We will go to business item 5. North Marina Site Plan located at 1192 East Saratoga Road. Jeremy.
Actually, I'll let the planner take this.
Okay. I will let her know that we grilled you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So,
Hey, can I just call it, just for everybody online, there's nobody in the room. I've never seen this in 6.5 years. Okay.
okay. So if you look at your map here, I have a star where you're at, and then, so it says you are here, and then we know where the marina is. It's over here.
Yep.
Okay. So, it complies with the land use zones. There's a few shall complies, but they are going to be taken care of in future phases or after completion, like bike racks. Some landscaping goes further east than this first part. This is the full site plan to the right, and there's kind of an inset of the first phase to the left. Then there's landscaping for the first portion. And then this is what the bathrooms and the ticket thing when you first pull in. That's the elevations for those. And do you have any questions on that?
And I've got one question on these bathrooms. One thing I've seen at other marinas, and I don't know if it's too late to add this, but as part of their bathrooms, they'll have 1 or 2 basically outside showers for people getting out of the lake. that could rinse off. I don't know if that's something we can look at
I love that.
adding into it, Jeremy, or if it's too late for that.
We could add freestanding showers adjacent to them, but these are en route here.
Prefab.
They're probably already on a trailer.
Okay. So just a suggestion. Getting out of Utah Lake, I love Utah Lake. I've recreated on it for a long time, but when you get out, if you had a clean water rinse, it would be a great amenity for us to look at.
Yeah, I think we do have those at the South Marina,
Okay,
the showers, but I think it's a freestanding one adjacent to us. We could do the same thing here.
that's great.
That'd be good.
That's my only question on this.
So I got a question.
Yep.
So we have a guard shack, but we're not using the one in the South Marina. Why are we doing this? Or is it gonna be where you self-pay at that shack, or what are we doing there?
There are times when we have a staff member at the guard shack during certain days, but
Busy
you're
days.
right. Other days, or frequently, it's a self-pay system. So it's kind of there not for all the time use, but there are times when we do have an attendant there. It also allows us to store some things for when there are staff on site. So it's a small storage use, or there's just a variety of other uses we would need it for. But you're right. It's not something that's used every day of operations.
And it's already on its way?
Yes.
Okay.
Just a reminder for this, the city put forward about $500,000, and we've been able to match that probably 10 times over with
Right.
additional funding.
12 times over.
12 times over, sorry, with additional funding and things of that nature. So we've done very well. Jeremy and his team have done a great job to make sure that we've gotten the best leverage we could for our city dollars in order to build this. So we appreciate all of the other entities that have been gracious in working with us, and we're anxious to get this project complete.
Okay.
And I will say, I've been hearing about this for a year. I went out there for the first time this last week. I think a lot of residents don't know about North Marina, what it is, what it's gonna look like, and I was like so excited seeing it, because even though I've heard about it in city council meetings for 12 months or something, it was still brand new, and I'm just so excited to see all the work you're doing there.
I have a feeling it's going to be very popular.
I think so too.
Has that old barn shed been torn down already?
This week, it's coming down this week.
Okay.
It's going on a trailer the other direction.
Any other questions or comments from the council? I will please entertain a motion on business item 5.
I move that the city council approve the requested site plan for the North Marina located at 1192 East Saratoga Road with the findings and conditions in the staff report.
Second.
Got a first from Councilmember Barton and a second from Councilmember Wadman. We'll do a roll call vote. Taylor?
Yes.
Wilson?
Yes.
Wadman?
Yes.
Barton?
Yes.
Davenport?
Yes.
That passes unanimously. We will go to the entertaining portion of the agenda on code amendments. Business item 6, amendment to Title 19 Land Development Code, City of Saratoga Springs. Go ahead. Austin.
All right. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Okay, this one is it's a good code amendment, open space amenities. This is, we are eliminating 25%. So we have a requirement right now where they have to have a 25%, there's a cap on what they can use amenities for. And so this is getting rid of that cap. It's basically giving more flexibility to developers to do more amenities, so we can have a wider variety. What we found is the old code, the current code, limits what we're getting, and so the code isn't doing what it was originally intended to do, which was to give us a variety of amenities. And then we're also changing the code regarding restrooms to try and focus those in on areas where they may be needed, such as like a trailhead or a park where people will be for longer durations. And so right now the code just says anything that's 5 acres has to have a restroom, which is kind of, it could be a piece of open space that has no amenities, no features, and it's like, why are we putting a restroom on a 5 acres of sagebrush? So this is to tighten that code up and put things where
For the
they,
wildlife.
yeah. So here's what the code looks like. If you want to, we can go into detail on that if you'd like, but here's the recommended motions.
Okay, I think that's pretty straightforward. Are there any questions or conversations from the
Can you
council
just
here?
go back to the one more
Yeah,
time?
for sure.
good to me, thank you.
So I'm a little bit confused actually, because I'm hearing a couple different things. So public parks and trailheads are required to provide a minimum of one toilet restroom. So are we basically saying if they're gonna have a trailhead, they have to put a one toilet restroom there?
So there is a key sentence in here that says subject to approval by the land use authority, which would be the city council. So it would be like the city council, we would come in with the site plan, and if the city council felt like a restroom was needed there, they would have to put it in, but if the city council felt like there
discretionary.
wasn't a reason to do it, we could make it so it's not a requirement.
Okay.
I just get a little nervous that we're gonna not have trails and as many like trailheads and stuff like that if we're starting to require a one toilet restroom at these. That's really hard to get services for something like that at a trailhead, and so I have a hard time leaving that up to, I don't know. That's for me. I just don't think that a trailhead should be required to have one toilet restroom, no matter what.
So question,
Yeah, go ahead.
are we leaving that up to, it's not a requirement.
No, but I'm saying like
A future council could require
yes, yeah, and I don't think it should be required. So I guess that's where I'm coming from.
Okay.
I don't think it should be a requirement no matter what. But that's just me. So that's if everybody else is fine. That's
So
okay
what
too.
about composting toilet?
Someone's gotta maintain that.
I'm more
I
okay
just-
with that because I'm saying that to get a toilet
you
up
said,
there,
yeah,
it's gonna be very very
service to it.
pricey. Yeah.
Good, yeah.
So
And there are in other areas where composting toilets are pretty common.
Yeah.
Where there's not water access and things like that.
yeah. Kevin, did you have your hand raised?
I'm a little confused by, so first of all, this is, once you pass this code, it is an administrative decision. So it's applying the criteria and determining if it meets it. You won't have discretion after this
Okay.
code is passed.
Okay. That's good to know.
Unless
Yeah.
there's enough factors in there that you can apply those factors to determine if the one toilet restroom is required. But here it says they are required to provide a minimum
That's
of
what
one
I
toilet
thought.
restroom.
Yeah.
And also, when you look at the criteria later, extend the duration of a public use beyond 1 hour. I would say that being an avid hiker, you rarely have a hike in a trailhead
That's gonna be
that's
less
less
than-
than an hour.
yeah.
But if that's what your concern is, I don't think this code is gonna give you the discretion later to say that the restroom is not required, if I were to interpret that strictly from a legal perspective.
Would may be required? Change that, Kevin?
That would be a lot better.
Okay, so.
But again, you don't want to take what should be an administrative decision where it's applying just basically a list of criteria and making the decision whether it's required or not. You don't want to turn that into a discretionary or a legislative decision, because sometimes these decisions are also going to be made by, well, let's see, I guess in this case, would they probably be determined by even, it might even be the planning commission that makes this decision. So you want to be a little bit careful there. It's okay to have some discretion as long as there's sufficient criteria to guide the land use authority in making that decision. That's pretty, hopefully that's clear, but it's very complicated here. But I think the general rule in this code is that it is required.
Right.
And
I
probably
totally
in very
agree with
limited
you there.
circumstances, it wouldn't be required.
I just think we need to go back then and fix this. I don't want it ever to be a requirement and not have trailheads and trails because they have to have a restroom there. And that, again, cost is crazy
It
to
could
put.
be, it could be crazy.
Yeah, it could be, depending how close they are to amenity
Right,
to
right.
that, it could be, yeah.
And I think you've brought up some really great points. One thing that I would like to also maybe get some clarification on is like, for example, in public lands, they have more the pit
Vault-
toilets,
vault,
vault toilets. And I think that could be something that could be further discussed and brought back as part of that code amendment, so that if it's not within, say, X number of feet of us, an existing sewer or something like that, we could allow for those vaults to go in. We'd certainly.
But again, that would be
I
incumbent
don't
on
like
us
that
to
still.
maintain it.
I don't like that either.
And-
I don't think within
and
even a certain amount of feet
clean 'em
is
out.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and so, again, those are things that we can explore more. So
Yeah.
again, if you don't feel it's ready, we certainly understand that, and just provide us the feedback that you'd like us to incorporate with changes, so we can do nothing, if you direct us to do nothing, or bring it back the way you'd like it to read.
Councilmember Barton, are you comfortable making a motion here?
Yeah.
Or do you have questions? We'll discuss it.
Before we do, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
before you-
go ahead.
Before we do, I'd like more discussion on the, I don't want to just say no toilets. I'd like to come back and
Yeah, I think there's an
think
option
about
to
that a little bit more,
continue.
because you know what? That's a nice amenity to have, honestly. Yeah, there may be some costs associated with servicing, but I don't think we've really fleshed that out yet to be able to make a determination whether we should or shouldn't.
Nice use of words.
Huh?
Flush it out.
Flush it out, yeah, our vault toilet.
Can we go to the next slide? As a mom of a preschooler, I really do appreciate, because I know that public nudity is not really looked upon well, but happens at parks all the time. I move that we continue the code amendment to chapter 1919 with directions to the applicant and staff on information or changes needed to render a decision as follows. We want to look at making sure that these are cost effective, not require that it is a legislative decision, and that it is cost effective. Is that correct?
I feel like that's drawing another line that we might not be able to ever reach, right?
So
I
cost
just-
effective is.
Yes,
Who-
who determines that? I'm
So-
just saying, no.
So, was that, you just make a motion?
I
So she
can
made a
read
motion
the
to continue. We have a motion to continue. Do we have a second before we go beyond that? And we can discuss it if we have a second.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we've got a first and a second to continue it. Further discussion. What I would like to do is, if we do continue this, what we've done in the past is maybe have a couple council members work with staff on some language that they're comfortable with, that this could come back at a later time.
If I could, for the vault toilets, we do have a vac truck. And so we have the capability to maintain those facilities. In
Okay.
fact, we've done that. So it's not beyond our ability to do it. We're not doing that right now because we don't have necessarily those types of facilities. But it is something that we could potentially do if having restrooms makes sense and if the council wants it on specific, trailhead locations and things of that nature. So again, I think there's alternatives that we could look at that could provide for a more cost-effective product.
I will just say again, I have a really hard time requiring anything at a trailhead. So it's, again, if nobody agrees, that's okay, but I just don't think that's a place that we need to even, but again, I think that so many people who actually are into hiking and stuff like that plan ahead, and they have ways to figure it out and stuff like that. And I think if you look out there in Utah in the mountains, I don't even know it'd be a 50-50 if they have bathrooms or not. I think it's very normal not to have a bathroom at these trailheads. And so, and of course, like the bigger ones that have like lakes and all that kind of stuff, they always will have them. But like these other trailheads that if we're able to hike on and stuff like that, a lot of them don't have restrooms. So I'm for not requiring them at all, even the ones that we could maybe maintain. Because again, we still are having to go out there and do that. Whether we have the equipment or not, it's still a process, right? And I'd rather honestly have a section of sidewalk than be taking care of toilets at a trailhead that we actually don't really need.
I think the reason that we're looking at this code is to make it less restrictive, and keeping that in mind of perhaps, how do we diversify the amenities that are available in our city? So looking at that as part of the language of that is the general input of how do we make things less restrictive rather than more in the code.
So me reading the room, I think we've got varying opinions here. We do have a motion and a second first. And who was the second? Rob, okay. On that motion, do we have council members who would be willing to work on this code so it could come back at a future meeting? And then we can judge that future code on what gets presented at that time.
I would love to do it. I just, again, I don't know if you guys want me to, because I'm very much like we should not require them. But I will be very open-minded, so I'm more than willing to
Okay.
work on it.
Council member,
I'm happy to help.
okay. So we've got, I'm having a hard brain night tonight. Davenport and Barton will be, can work with that. So let's go ahead and take a vote on that motion to continue. We'll do a roll call vote on that. Wilson?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Davenport?
Yes.
Barton?
I still don't know, even though I'm on.
Yes, you can.
Okay, and nay, no.
Okay, Wadman?
Yes.
Okay, that passes 4-1 to continue, and those two, with Councilmember Barton as a no. And then Councilmember Barton and Councilmember Davenport will work with Austin on some new language to bring that back.
Thanks, Austin.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and then we're
Love
gonna
you
go.
still, even though I, like, sorry, I always feel bad.
Okay, let's go
We get
to
told no all the time.
business item 7.
Sorry.
Yep. Business item 7, amendments to Title 19 Land Development Code, Saratoga Springs, Title 1916, Site and Architectural Design Standards for warehouse, additional standards exemption, city initiated. Ordinance 2616.
Okay, so this one is, so sometimes you do code amendments, there's unintended consequences that you don't find as you're trying to write them. This was one of those. So in the office warehouse, heavy commercial, light industrial, and industrial zones, you have a lot of the same uses that you do in regional commercial and other places. But you will have smaller buildings. You're allowed to do the big, huge warehouses, but you also do little, small ones. And so there's like it's not even with the requirements currently. So we're proposing that buildings that the additional standards apply only to buildings that are bigger than 15,000 square feet and wider than 200 feet on the front
That makes
elevation.
sense.
Because it was intended to reduce the perceived mass of the building.
Mhm.
So, and then I just kind of circled some of the things where they're the same down at the bottom there, or not circled, but highlighted.
Highlighted. Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, this is what it's meant. This is how it's shown in the code. It has your entryways that are required, a 30-foot wide by 15-foot deep amenity zone at main entrances. So this is what we've intended for these big office warehouse buildings. These are North Shore Commerce over here. These are smaller. This is the In-N-Out warehouse up North Redwood Road. And then you have smaller ones like the liquor store, and then you have these like the Roxbury. So in the staff report, I know I added the 30-foot amenity zones at each entrance so you could see how close it would really be or what would be required. So you have this building here with 6 tenants in it. Let me get to where it's at. But it's only 160 feet, so, or wide, or 5 tenants. So 150 feet of that would be amenity zones of the 160 feet wide of the building, which on a small building, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Just showing smaller, how wide the buildings are. So we're trying to just make it to where that's not an issue with smaller buildings.
Okay, council, this one feels pretty straightforward. Are there any questions on this?
I just want to say thank you for the visuals. That's ultra helpful.
It's very helpful.
Throw those
This was
in
very
there.
helpful.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
And how did you come up with a 15,000 square foot? Was it just like looking at different buildings and it's
Well-
just kind of like the ballpark range?
I was actually proposed smaller, and then Sarah's like, well, we should make it a little bigger. Because I went afterwards and I was looking to see what strip ones we have and about the average they were, and 15,000 seemed reasonable.
Within that, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If there are no other questions, I'll entertain a motion on business item 7.
I move that the city council approve the requested code amendment to chapter 19.16 with the findings and conditions in the staff report.
Second.
Okay, we've got a first from Barton, a second from Davenport. Any further discussion? We'll do a roll call vote. Wadman?
Yes.
Barton?
Yes.
Davenport?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Wilson?
Yes.
That passes unanimously. We will go to business item 8, amendment to Title 19 Land Development Code, Chapter 1916, Ordinance 2617. Austin.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, so this one is a code amendment regarding building buffer requirement that we have, and also creating a new definition for loading bay. So building buffer, what is that? Basically, it just requires that we have a landscaping buffer around all the commercial buildings, a 5-foot landscape buffer. But what we found is on some of the recent applications that we've been getting, for example, like in the Jacobs Ranch Marketplace, you can see an example here, when they try and do a driveway, and if they have to have 5 feet on the corners, it makes it kind of problematic to still be able to do the curvature and fit it on the lot. And so the proposal is that we have an exception for the building buffer on corners of drive-throughs if they're protected with a bollard, so like a metal protection. That's part of the reason why we have the 5-foot buffer is for protection of the buildings, you know, so you don't have a car driving into the building. But we felt like, we've seen it in other cities where they have these bollards that protect the corners. It seems to work in other communities, and I think it gives a developer a more ability to design the site in a better way. So it doesn't limit, we're not limiting them. The other thing is when we were looking at this, we got to thinking, okay, the 5-foot buffer doesn't make sense on buildings that have what we would call a loading bay. So what is a loading bay? It's any part of a building where access is provided via a roll-up door. So it could be like we're unloading a truck, but it could also be something like where a gymnastic studio where they have the doors that roll up so they can get fresh air in there. And so in practice, we haven't really been applying this, but the code doesn't read that way. So we just want the code to line up with the way we're actually practicing applying this in real life. So this is an example. This is in North Shore, so just kind of by where the tag and go is down here on the corner. This is a proposed building that would be going in. These are roll-up doors on the north end. As you can see, the asphalt goes right up to there. Again, it's kind of like another example of where it just doesn't make sense to have a 5-foot buffer, a landscape buffer on the building there. So that's the proposal. Those are the examples. Do you have any questions?
So I'm not as concerned about the roll-up door. I see that one. The other one gives me a little pause.
I'm with you too.
Because we're lessening that setback and it's putting the building right up closer to where the cars are. And I think it weakens the aesthetic of what we're looking at there. We're just putting up bollards and putting
That's
the building
exactly
closer.
what I was gonna say, yeah.
And,
I don't even know what does a bollard
I'm not
look
voting
like?
here, but I'll leave it up to the council. I'm not super comfortable with that piece of it.
That's exactly what I was gonna say, Mayor. I'm not quite sure about it, so I don't know if I can be eventually, but right now maybe some examples of bollards, or maybe I can go drive around. I don't know, right? Like I'm worried about it. I think I understand from the building side of it and everything like that, why we'd want to do this. I just am not quite comfortable with it right now.
So a bollard it's like a 6-inch round pipe.
Right.
Sticking out of the ground filled with concrete.
Yeah, ugly.
So it's
And
just,
so that's
So
what-
we have,
we have
several
yeah.
in front of this building, and
Right.
then we have several
Right,
along
but-
the
Yeah.
library drive up.
I
Those
get
are
that,
types of
but
bollards, but just as an example, that's what
Okay.
it's referring to.
Yeah.
when you're looking at a drive-through here, essentially what we're looking at, you're bringing those vehicles right up closer to the building, whereas before they had a nice buffer, and just aesthetically, it looks better to me.
I agree.
The drive-through is still close to the building though, right?
Yeah, so I should explain that we currently do have an exception in the code
For drive-throughs.
for a drive-through window. So if you
Okay.
have a drive-through window on that side of the building, that side of the building could be closer than 5 feet.
Then I don't want to make an exception here if we already make that exception. But
But
again,
then the
that's
corner
just me.
couldn't be.
So this
the
would be
drive-through
allowing an
window-
additional exception
Yeah.
for that, for the corner. Right now, the way we interpret the code, actually, that box on the left-hand side would actually, could qualify for the current exception, but the one on the right would not. So the idea was.
And that looks funny too.
Let's allow it, but we've had, this is just one example, but we've had multiple sites that have been challenged with this, so.
Like people building have came and that's been a challenge for them? Is that what you're?
It's from different developers on
Okay.
different developments, but this is something, it's a common challenge that's been.
Challenge that they don't have enough room to design it like they want to?
well,
What's the
there
challenge?
actually are some that are already built like this.
We
in
just
the
gave them
city.
exceptions before?
Well, it was not caught when they were built.
There
there's
are.
some in, I think it's Saratoga Springs Commercial. There's
Saratoga
some
Springs
that-
Commercial does have some like this, yeah. So
Yeah.
we've been getting some pushback. They've been saying, why did this X building
Oh.
get built this
That's
way?
helpful
Why does it
background
have
information.
that? And then we've had to explain, well, that's not what our code says, and there was a mistake that must have been made in the past. But Per our current code, you do have to have the 5 foot, and so we've been enforcing it that way, despite the fact that there are examples in the past where this has not been done.
That's helpful, thank you.
Council?
I feel like I need to drive
So
around to these buildings
Yeah,
a
it might
little
be
bit.
good to continue this. I actually had thought that you were asking the opposite things, to have a reduced on the other side, not next to the building, but next to like maybe residences. Anyway, I have
Okay,
feelings about
yeah.
that. But maybe we just continue it to work on it more.
If the council wants, we could give you some examples of what this might look like and then let you kind of see those for yourself as well. Again, if you're not comfortable with it, you know,
Yeah, I'm
vote it
not
up, vote it down,
for or
table it,
against.
however
I
you
just
want it.
need- Yeah,
We could come back with some examples, pictures,
Yeah.
show you, I don't know any off the top of my head, but, let's say the chicken restaurant has,
Yeah.
we could
Which
show you some
chicken?
examples.
Give us some
I'm not
restaurants
gonna
to
give any
visit, and
names.
we
got a
can,
lot
I'm
of
not giving any
chickens.
names on record, no.
give us some
So-
restaurants to visit.
We can send out an email
I
with
would
some
love
examples.
to send
that
to go
you can
drive
look
through.
at.
would
Yeah,
be great.
absolutely.
And we'd encourage you to make a purchase as you go.
So one
Chicken 100%.
Support local.
One thing that sometimes the feedback that we get is that our code makes opening a business
That's why now,
difficult.
now that we're learning this, that's good
and
to know.
so, this may be
One of
one
those
of the
examples.
ways that do we go with aesthetics or do we go with a more business friendly?
Well, we just have to find the balance.
Yes.
Right.
Right. So
Yeah.
looking at it a little deeper, I think would be
Yeah.
Okay.
wise.
So I think I'm hearing is we might be ready for a motion on this.
Is our continued motion again?
Yep, option 2.
I move that we continue the proposed code amendment to chapter 19.02 and 19.16 to another meeting in a future date. And with direction to bring in examples.
Send out
Second.
some examples beforehand.
Yeah.
Second.
Okay. Okay, we've got a first from Councilmember Davenport, a second from Wadman. Any further discussion on this item?
I'd rather, rather than have a example sent, that it just be in another packet ahead of time that we can look at that time and brought back completely with the presentation. I don't want to, I
Like
would
we do.
prefer to
Yeah,
have
both.
it that way than have
Okay.
a bunch of emails sent out with examples. I'd like to see it in a presentation if
I agree with that. I just want an example. If you guys have examples that I can drive by, right?
Yeah.
So that's just what I want the email for, Mark, if that's okay. Just some like, hey, who's already doing it, who's not, that kind of thing, like, so we can see them. But yes.
Austin, do you have
those
enough direction on
examples,
that?
I mean, we can do it both ways. We can send you a quick email, but, I mean, I was planning on putting it together in a presentation, so we can.
Great.
We can say,
That's
okay,
perfect.
this is in, in
And then
Lehigh, this
we
is
on
how
our
they do
own
it,
can do what
Eagle
we want
Mountain,
when it comes
that's
to
how they do
driving,
it.
yeah.
Okay, great. No further discussion. I'll take a roll call vote. Wadman?
Yes.
Barton?
Yes.
Davenport?
Yes.
Taylor?
yes.
Wilson, that is
Yes.
continued unanimously. Seeing as how we have need for closed meeting tonight, I'll take a motion to go into a closed session for the reasons stated on the agenda.
I move that we go into a closed meeting.
So made from
Oh, Wadman?
Wadman, second from Barton, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes, we'll go to closed. So everybody here can wait. We'll be back in a
We're
little
gonna
bit.
be back in a minute. Thank you for staying.
No, we're gonna